How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am very good. I like your background, your
Oh,
backdrop.
thanks.
It's very
You
cute.
look so you thanks. You look so cozy. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my blanket. It is freezing. Now you looking so cozy. I can't. I'm gonna just yeah, mine too.
That's awesome. You still look much more professional. So, good job.
Welcome to Lead the Way with Anna Gauker. Your guide, Anna Gauker, is on a quest of her own to find effective ways of creating change and inclusion in our communities. You have come to the right place if you believe in truth, justice, and coffee. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, this is Lead the Way, and I'm Anna Gauker. I know it's been some time since we've had an episode, and we have a lot of exciting things in the works, and we will be back with you regularly, hopefully very shortly. But for now, we are bringing you a special episode. In this episode, which I'm so excited to share with you, I had the pleasure to talk with Executive Director of Girls on the Run of South Central Wisconsin, Christine Benedict. We had such a good conversation about the evolution of her career and how she found the right path for her and really latched onto her skills and found new things that she didn't even know she was good at or enjoyed, but wasn't afraid to take the leap. So I'm so excited to share this with you. I hope you enjoy the interview as much as I did. This is Christine Benedict. I'm so excited to be talking to you today. Can you start by sharing a bit about where you're from?
Sure. I grew up outside of Chicago in Schaumburg, Illinois, and I lived there for until I was 18. And then I went to college up at Lawrence University in Appleton.
That's awesome. So, what brought you up to Madison?
After college, I took a job where I traveled full time, actually, doing some consulting work for women's sorority. And then I ended up in graduate school down in Bloomington, Indiana. And during those 3 years, I had been living apart from my now husband. And he was making a decision to go back to graduate school himself. And he chose the University of Wisconsin, Madison. And so we decided that living in the same state seemed like a good idea after a few years apart. And I moved to Madison. And we thought we were just going to be here for a few years while he did his graduate work. And now it's been 20 years. Just crazy.
I feel like, yeah, I know how that goes. That's exactly what happened with me as well. How did you meet your husband?
We met in college as undergrads. We both ran track and were student athletes in a small liberal arts Division III college, but we met just through the athletic community there. And then we were friends throughout college, didn't start dating until honestly, really just before we graduated, which was a little impractical, but ultimately worked out.
I got a little ahead of myself. can you tell me a bit about any of the people that you think influenced you the most growing up?
Oh, growing up, I was really fortunate. I was surrounded by a number of amazing people. I'm still fortunate. Both my parents are alive, and they've been great supporters and cheerleaders and mentors to me. But in my youth, I would say I was not super athletic at a time when I feel like kids were trying out soccer and softball and things that involved a ball and coordination. Um, and so I thought sports weren't for me at all until middle school. And my PE teacher in sixth grade, and then my middle school cross country coach, Mr. Aston, kind of helped me reframe what sport and athleticism looked like. And that ultimately ended up having a big impact on my life. I wouldn't have known it or guessed it at the time, but both of those folks ended up having a big impact.
What made you fall in love with cross country?
I love that there was both an individual component specifically for cross country, which is, different than track.
Yeah.
But specifically for cross country, I love that there was an individual component. You could still kind of compete against yourself if you've run that course previously, but there's also a team element. So it takes that sport that feels really individualized, but allows you to compete as a team. And you're on the most beautiful trails. There are no roads. You're just out in the countryside, kind of fresh air, your teammates. It's a great sport.
Did you catch on immediately that this was something you were going to be so interested in and passionate about, or did it take kind of a process?
I think it took kind of a process, and I continue to be kind of a multi-interested person. I like being involved in a bunch of different things. And so even as I got into high school, I was still taking piano lessons and playing the viola, and I wanted to be in the school musicals and in student government. And, having to then also make a choice to be an athlete meant that I didn't sleep very much, I think, was ultimately what happened. But I didn't know what I was going to continue to be interested in. And basically that's been part of my whole life too. Even in college, then ultimately I ended up not focusing very well either, and kind of continuing to do as many things as I could. It's kind of just been now in my career that I get to focus a little bit more on one big passion.
So you made your way up to Wisconsin, and I saw on your LinkedIn that you worked for Edgewood for a while.
I did.
And you were in the admissions department, is that right?
That is right.
So what got you into that, and then how did you transition your whole career?
Yeah, it's a great question. So starting back at Lawrence, I loved college. As much as I loved high school and being involved in a bunch of things, I went to a big high school in suburban Chicago and never really felt community in a way that I think I yearned for. And I found that at Lawrence. I feel like I met my people and some of my dearest friends, and I fell in love with the idea of college. And for a minute, I thought I wanted to be a professor, but then I couldn't really decide what discipline I wanted to be teaching or the idea of going to school for some, to be some sort of academic expert seemed so daunting. And so I had this incredible mentor on the student life side of things, my dean of students, Nancy Truesdale, who helped me realize that you could work at a college and not be a professor, which despite the fact that I'd been involved in so many things, still seemed surprising to me. And by that point, I was already a senior. I had majored in biology and French, which again, because I could not decide what I wanted to study, I ended up getting this job where I was going to travel and visit colleges and universities all over the country, helping advise sorority women. And I thought that was a great way to figure out if maybe I did want to work at a college or university. And I loved it. And so during that year, then I applied to graduate school at Indiana University so that I could study higher education. I felt like, how could I work at a college with a degree in biology and French? I'd never taken one education course, not one administration or leadership course. So I got this great practical degree in higher education administration. And then, like I said, I found myself moving to Madison, and the best opportunity presented itself. I had, loved my time at Lawrence, that small private college experience. I had been a tour guide and worked in the admissions office, even as an undergrad, helping recruit students to that campus. And so I have to admit, I had applied to like 40 jobs all over South Central Wisconsin. It was not an easy hiring time in 2002. But the best opportunity presented itself. And I ended up as an admissions counselor at Edgewood College. And then I had the opportunity to really grow in my profession there and be mentored by an awesome supervisor who remained my supervisor really for basically the entirety almost of my time there, 17 years. I worked at Edgewood in progressing leadership opportunities, ultimately leaving after my last 5 years there. I served as the vice president for enrollment management. But you ask about that transition part. Outside of my work, I loved volunteering and getting involved in different things. And I started as a volunteer with Girls on the Run in 2007. I joined their board of directors and started coaching in their program, which is really a confidence building program that uses running and movement to teach those life skills and lessons. And I loved it in my, as my outlet outside of work. And I was like super focused on moving up in my career and getting to sort of that peak job in the administrative sector. And then I got there and I was there like 5 years. And I'm so proud of what I did at Edgewood. But I was also like, wow, here I am. like barely 40 and I've hit my dream job and now I don't know what to do. And almost at that time where I started to think like, oh, I don't know what to do from here. And yet I feel like there's something else. My now predecessor at Girls on the Run shared that she was retiring and wanted to know if I knew anyone who might be interested in leading the council. And I think I surprised her quite a bit when I said, I think it's me. I would like to do that. And so I feel like on some level, coaching and working with those girls all those years and teaching those lessons of confidence and making bold choices for yourself. And I feel like maybe after 10 years of coaching, some of those lessons started to soak in. And I thought, well, I can reinvent myself in my 40s. I'll try this. And here I am.
Can you talk a bit about, you said you majored in French and biology. Were your parents encouraging of the diversity of your interests, or were they like, what are you doing?
You know how to ask the best questions. My parents were not all that excited about the addition of my French major. My mom had been a French major, actually, and taught French. And you might think that that would have made her more supportive. And instead, she said, "What are you going to do with a French major?"
Because she knew
Yeah,
firsthand.
she knew. But yes, and ultimately, she's such a great role model. She went back to school in her 40s to become a librarian, to become a public librarian, and was such a good role model in that way, kind of always learning. And so for me, yeah, my parents, I mean, they were super supportive overall and trusted that things would figure themselves out, but they were definitely a little confused by my choices.
But I imagine that also set you up to be more confident in taking a risk and following your curiosity later in your career as well.
Yeah, I feel so fortunate. The things that I talk about a lot, actually, when I worked at Edgewood, and honestly, the biology major or something in the hard sciences, I know you've got some psychology and social science background, like the problem solving and the hypothesis testing and like the research skills you learn, I think in any of those sciences can be applied to so much. I wouldn't have known that at the time. I mean, I was pretty focused. I did some specific work on freshwater ecology, but the same problem concepts and research can be applied to so much stuff. And then the French side of things, I love to travel. I love being able to communicate well with people. If I could have a superpower, it would be to speak all the languages in the world just to help everyone feel connected. But I just know the one and a little bit of Swedish, and I'll maybe someday when I have more time, I'll try to learn more. But I still try to use my French pretty regularly to and keep that up for whenever I might need it. So I feel like getting to learn in two very different ways in college has really set me up, for continued curiosity.
Do you think that your background in administration, university, are there things about your former career that help you in your current position? And were there certain things that you felt like maybe you weren't ready for?
Yes, definitely. Both of those. In ways, some that surprised me, some I was prepared for. I feel grateful that I had the opportunity to work with a board of directors and to work on strategic plan development and feel pretty comfortable with balance sheets and budgets and supervising people. So a lot of those skills and that work felt really transferable. The things I did not have any experience with that I do spend a lot of my time on now are related to fund development. So grant writing, working with corporate sponsors, stewarding donors, that kind of stuff I really didn't have any experience with. And I do feel still a little bit unprepared sometimes, and know that there's probably, like there was for my higher education work, I know there's academic work I could be doing, or there's studying or research I could be doing probably to do it better. And that still remains on my to-do list.
When you were interviewing for the job, how did you go into it and how did you present yourself? Like, did you tell them, like, hey, I have this area that I'm not so comfortable with, and what are we going to do, or how is that approached?
Yeah, I'm a pretty transparent person. I definitely was willing to share where I thought I had some strengths and where I thought I could use some help. I still see so much potential for the organization and our reach in South Central Wisconsin. And so I think my passion outweighed any of the fears they might have had about some of the skills that were not quite yet developed.
I feel like so many people, though, talk themselves out of an opportunity, and I think the statistics show that, especially in women, that we feel like we need to be 200% qualified for something in order to even step out and apply or take a risk and try it. And that's such a difficult hurdle for people to overcome. Just that feeling of like, well, I mean, I'm not ready for this, but like for sure down the road, maybe someday, and you just like went for it. So, what advice would you give people?
Yeah, you're exactly right. There are statistics. I should know the number. We actually added it to our last position description, that women wait to apply for jobs when they feel like they have met 100% of the items listed. And for men, it's like 60% or 70%. It's like a very
low.
distinctly different
It's
number.
low.
Yeah, considerably lower. Yeah. And so I think just pointing that out and reminding people that that is some managers' absolute dream wish list. That's a position they think no person probably would be able to do. And so, to really, I think when you can find a place where the mission fit and the environment and the people you're surrounded by are going to be supportive and passionate and excited with you, I think, reminding yourself that you'll be able to learn some of those harder skills as you go. And that I again was grateful over time to have learned that. I didn't know how to be a vice president. I didn't know how to be a director of admissions. I learned a lot of that stuff over time. And so fortunately, I was able to take some of that with me and trust that I would figure some things out. And I have been pleasantly surprised by how much I have loved grant writing. I never thought that would be in my wheelhouse, but I love it.
My main job for my career has been in job development for people with disabilities. So back when I worked more directly with clients, I used to tell people, like, employers really don't know what they want. They just think they know what they want. So don't, like, go in there feeling like you're not what they're looking for, as they really don't have a clue what they're looking for. They just think that they do, and they're looking for anyone reliable who's going to show up and try hard. Those are, I think, the essential elements of a good employee. So I don't know if it's a good thing that I keep telling people that employers don't know what they want or what they're looking for, but I really stand by it.
I think you're right. And honestly, I think the best managers are hiring great people and then finding the work that's a great match for those skills. I find, I've gotten the chance to manage dozens of people over the years, and oftentimes a year in, they're doing work that is very different, perhaps, than what they might have originally been hired to do, but it's a strength of the organization to benefit from their diverse skills. So I'm with you. I agree. I think managers don't know what there's even the potential for sometimes. So yeah, stick with that advice.
Excellent. Can you tell us about Girls on the Run for people who are not familiar? What is Girls on the Run?
I'd love to. Girls on the Run is a positive youth physical activity program, also described as an after-school empowerment program for 3rd through 8th grade girls. So the girls meet in small teams of about 15 to up to 20 kids with 3 to 4 trained Girls on the Run coaches, and they meet for 8 to 10 weeks. And they meet twice a week after school for 90 minutes a lesson. And they play games and move and learn important life skills related to things like positive self-talk, empathy, making good choices, being a supportive friend. And then they focus on sharing their star power. That's what we call the light that lives inside of everyone. We help them focus on sharing their star power with their community too, through a community service project. And then all the while, all this time, they've also been training and getting themselves ready to walk, run, skip, or roll a 3.1 mile run at the end of their season. And so we are in the middle of our spring 2022 season, and we have almost 1,100 girls participating across 8 counties on about 75 teams, and all of them will be coming together for what I call an epic celebration of girl power on Saturday, June 4th in Middleton, to all do that big culminating run together.
Is it a national thing or is it local?
It's a national program. It was started back in 1996 in North Carolina, and now there are about 200 councils throughout the US and Canada. But we're our own 501c3, so we're our own operation here, but we use the national curriculum that's been written by psychologists and researched and studied and proven to be just so effective in helping girls develop those skills.
So each time everyone comes together, how do you work all of that in to the girls' time?
Yeah, so each lesson in that 90 minutes, they start with sort of an introduction to the day's concept. So yesterday I got to help coach a team, and the theme was about positive self-talk. And so we kind of set up the concept, and kids think about examples of positive or negative self-talk that they heard others use or that maybe they find themselves saying. And so they reflect on that. They do a little bit of personal reflection. Then we get them moving. And so the exercise yesterday, they had to think about where in their world do they experience more positive self-talk or more negative self-talk, trying to get them to connect, whether that's with family and at home or with friends and peers or at school or in their activities or in some other part of their life. And then there was like a relay game, essentially, where they ran between the different parts of their life and associated that positive and negative self-talk. And then again, they got to stretch and warm up and kind of get themselves ready for their actual workout. And they did their workout and they reflected back on a bunch of these kind of negative self-talk concepts. But with each lap that they ran, they had to practice turning a negative statement into a positive statement. And so they could then kind of walk away from practice really with some of those negative pieces reframed in their minds. And then we end every practice with what we call energy awards, which are sort of a compliment and recognition opportunity for kids to appreciate one another with joy and some sort of really ridiculous movement. So they get to do these energy awards and give them to each other in celebration of what they learned at practice. And then everybody heads home. So it's an action-packed 90 minutes, but it's a real balance of movement and reflection and discussion.
Very cool. How do you outreach and get people to join and participate?
Yeah, we try to work really closely with schools and community centers. So we have some really strong allies in the school districts in our territory who are awesome champions for our program, and they help us identify typically one person who we would call our site liaison, a real internal champion for that program. And that person usually helps us either recruit a couple of coaches, or sometimes I was a community coach for years. I don't have kids. I'm not associated with any school building or anything. I just wanted to share my time with kids and maybe benefit from the lessons myself as an adult. But so we match other volunteers to those school communities. And those school folks, though, are also really helpful in getting the word out within the schools to help us recruit kids who they feel like could really benefit from the program too. So.
Very cool. I don't know, I've not thought about this in so long, but when I was a kid, my friend and I somehow convinced this cheerleading group that we were gonna join, even though we were way too young to be a part of this cheerleading group. And I went out and drove circles around the cheerleaders or something, and was really excited to be there. Do you have anyone involved or somewhat affiliated with your group who has a disability?
We sure do. Yes, we actually have one participant who uses a chair full time this season. And we have kids who have Down syndrome and are on the autism spectrum and have other physical disabilities too. The program is totally inclusive. It's a non-competitive program. It's not really a running development program. It's a confidence building program that uses movement as a way to kind of teach the lessons and keep kids engaged. But yeah, we definitely are excited to support kids with all sorts of disabilities in the program.
How do you approach that when someone's coming in and maybe you need to make accommodations? Is there a process?
Yeah, it depends. We work pretty closely with family members if they're aware, family or guardians, people who can offer some helpful insights. We have some participants who might benefit and be helped by having a full-time aide at practice. So in addition to their coaches, some of them want to bring their own person to practice. We can accommodate that. Or if they, kind of can help us figure out what's best for them, we have our national program has worked with NICPAD to help us modify almost all of our lessons and really give some really good and helpful suggestions on ways to modify sort of broadly some of the programming, and then even, down to the specific lessons that we're executing based on whatever the kids need. Whether we've had kids with vision impairments or hearing impairments. And so it all depends. It really depends on what that kiddo needs to feel at their best to joyfully and meaningfully participate.
I'm sure that it makes such a difference, though, for all of the girls that are part of it, that you have such a diverse group and that you encourage that.
I definitely, having watched and gotten the chance to visit some of those sites, it really helps. I think it really, I mean, so many of the lessons in general and the lesson content is focused on, everyone's unique strengths and unique gifts. And I think when you can really meet people who are different than you and have different experiences, it really helps hit home how valuable all of those different strengths are. So, I think our teams all absolutely benefit from that. I think we have some barriers still with our name, the program itself, to call it Girls on the Run. We also welcome kids who are non-binary and kids who are gender expansive. With girls in the name, that sends one message, running sends another message. And so we still have some work to do, I would say, to help everyone feel like it's for them, right out of the gates.
How do you measure success in your job and also for the organization?
Oh, that is such a good question. I mean, ultimately, my priorities are like the girl experience, the kiddo experience, and we do some end of season surveys with parents and kids who can report back what they learned and if they felt safe and included and if they had fun, all the things we want to happen. That girl experience is paramount. Then it's the coach experience. I just still am blown away that hundreds of people want to donate their time to our program and to our youth. And we want to make that volunteer experience as rewarding and as joyful as possible. So we want to provide every last material, every last piece of paper, every last marker, anything they need to make the experience feel easy for them. So again, we do surveys at the end of the season to hear back from our coaches about their experience. So success to me looks like kids who want to come back to the program, coaches who want to come back to the program. And then it's about reach. And if we're able to meet demand at the individual schools or in the school districts where we're offering programming, we have, and really this season, we had a few different schools and sites where we could not meet demand. We had kids who our team size is small on purpose. And so even if there's sometimes in some situations where we just can't pull together a whole other team of volunteers. And so there are kids left unserved. That breaks my heart. And then it's, hopefully about getting to new places where we're still not offered yet. We are brand new actually to Janesville. We have our very first team down there. That's a big population center for us to only be serving 10 kids this season. And we're back in Beloit for the first time in many years this season. And so that too, I still feel like there's a lot of opportunity. So success will look like both meeting demand in our communities where there's a lot of interest and bringing programming to places that haven't had access before.
What will allow you to expand in those areas? Is it finding more volunteers?
Yes, usually our volunteers, it's probably one of our biggest limiting factors. I mean, if volunteers, and especially those site liaisons or site champions, those are really special volunteers, folks who want to help do just a little bit more to coordinate. They're often the ones sending the extra emails or doing a social media post or telling their neighbor or friend about the program. It's those catalysts in those communities that really help get things going. And then it becomes that recruitment of those volunteers to really help staff the teams.
Well, that is good to know. I hope people blow you up and really show you how much they want to get involved and Yeah, I think that it's such an important thing that you're doing. Well, it's been such a pleasure to talk with you, Christine. Thank you so much.
I am so grateful, Anna. It's really nice to meet you. I read your book and I've been listening to your podcast.
Oh
and so
my
I'm
gosh.
kind of a fangirl here. So I'm excited to have had the chance to talk to you.
And thank you for taking the time today.
You bet. Thanks for reaching out.
Have a good rest of your evening.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
That was Christine Benedict. Again, I just enjoyed talking with her so much, and I hope that you gained as much listening to our conversation as I did talking with her. It was such a privilege. I have to say thank you again to Christine for taking the time and sharing her experiences with us. If you have a chance, please make sure that you check out Girls on the Run of South Central Wisconsin. Give your support in whatever way you're able, donating, volunteering, whatever that looks like for you. It's such a worthy organization. They do so much good for our community, and I'm so excited for all that's ahead for them. You can check out their website at Girls on the Run, SCWI.org. That's Girls on the Run, S as in Sierra, C as in Charlie, WI.org. But we will definitely link to their website in the episode description as well. Special thanks to Buzz Kemper for his voiceover artistry in the opening. This episode was brought to you by the time and talent of Tyler Willenbrink. I'm Anna Gauker. Until next time.